By the way, I went out because lightning struck about 5 yards from my house.
No way.
Oh, whoa. From New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from Vacaville, California. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Matt Doyle, Chuck D, Charlie Davies. Charlie, I'm missing something, man. I haven't been mocked for partners in soccer, and I feel well over 6 months. Mm-hmm. And it just, part of me, I don't know if it's because we're not in person anymore. I don't know if you don't feel as comfortable. But come on, man, just, drag me a little bit. Give me a little bit. Just make it feel real.
It's yours. So, I've come to respect it. And, I've even singled you out on the draft with the lottery balls. I said, to quote the great Andrew Wiebe, my partners in soccer. Okay. So now, I'm part of the family. It was first, I felt like I was on the outside. Now I'm in the family. I'm in the bubble.
Gotcha.
So you're a partner.
Yeah. Now I'm a partner. And I'm happy with it.
He got his name on the firm. Yeah. Andrew and Charlie.
I feel like this is all a roundabout way of mocking me, but I'll let it go in this sense. Yeah. Thank you for being my partner in soccer.
I think like when you watch Arthur and all those kids' cartoons you're showing Cam, this is how you deal with bullying. You persevere who you are, and Charlie moved on to the next victim. I don't know who that is yet, which makes me
worried. Wait. So you're calling me too tall grizzly here?
Whoa,
that is a way deeper cut than I expected.
Let's go. Berenstein Bears. That's a huge.
Are you kidding me?
Whoa. Man. We're kindred spirits now, Charlie. We're kindred spirits. Hey, 9 days, everybody.
The coyote.
Have it. You know what? By the way, before we get into it, 9 days until MLS is back. If you don't know about boots, you should. It's a fake thing that Charlie uses to scare his kids. But now
it's fake.
Cameron,
it's real, man.
That's true. Now Cameron is telling me that there are ghosts everywhere, and I hope he didn't hear this in the office in the other room because it's terrifying me. I'm scared when he tells me there's ghosts. So I'll come to you, Charlie, for some advice here very, very soon on that one. 9 days until MLS is back. Tournament kicks off. We've been waiting more than 100. It is almost here, but we did not have to wait for NWSL. It is back. They're doing their thing in Utah. 2 games to get this thing started. Lynn Williams and the North Carolina Courage. 2-1. Big winner over the Portland Thorns. 90+4, almost to the death. But she got this thing done to get the tournament started. Then a powerful moment. I'm sure everybody saw this. Casey Short, Julie Ertz of the Chicago Red Stars coming together during the national anthem. They were kneeling. They were protesting. They were supporting each other. If you have not seen this, go see it. And then, of course, Roosevelt did her thing, and the Washington Spirit won 2-1. But it was great to see soccer back on these shores.
Mm-hmm.
I got asked, though, Charlie. Doyle, you tweeted out, oh, man, this is like, what happened here? Anytime there's not a pass on a breakaway when there's a tap-in, you go absolutely bonkers. And I immediately went to your Twitter feed in that moment and got exactly what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And Charlie, do you pass? Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, Lynn Williams is a great player, and she got the goal to finish it off. And sometimes it's a striker's prerogative, but that was just like slide it left, and it's a tap in, and you end the game in the first half. And she didn't do it, and I lost my damn mind yelling at the TV.
All strikers, we go through it. You love to score.
Hold on. You go through it? You act like this is something you're suffering.
Yes.
You took the shot on the breakaway.
No, because there are times, heat of the moment, you're in the game, and there is a better option to pass. But you just see goal. That's it. You just see goal, and you shoot. Now, if it goes in, there's no problem. It's like, yeah, I saw you, but I scored. It's over. Good. But when you don't score, you go back to the locker room, or maybe it's on the field. Hey, I'm right here. Pass me the ball. It's an easy tap in. And maybe the coach jumps in. Hey, Lynn, slip her in. It's an easy tap in. And you're like, you win the game. It's over. You probably joke about it in the locker room and you move on. It's those times where you don't win. When I say we all go through it, you feel it because you're like, oh, yeah, I should have passed it. It was an easy tap in, and I got to make up for it. So, but I was that guy that slipped in, people. I made that pass. So I feel good. I feel really good about how it went down. We got
to get Josie on the show to confirm whether
Josie will confirm. Josie will confirm.
Doyle, everyone knows if you're Lynn Williams or Charlie Davies, you're a double-digit goal scorer, you are brought in to shoot. That's it.
Shoot,
Eyes
shoot.
closed. You don't see anything else. That's who you are. We've had
That's
Carlos
it.
Ruiz on this show. Every
You
time
know?
I ask Carlos Ruiz, do you ever feel bad for like not running, not defending at time? He's like, I'm here to score goals. I do nothing else. And I was like, respect, man.
But
Charlie,
that wasn't me. I wasn't just a goal scorer. So that's why I was expected to create for others too. I think that's what differentiated me from a lot of the just pure goal scorers and the poachers was I enjoyed going out to the touchline, beating somebody 1v1, and then slipping in somebody else.
Or
Charlie,
shooting.
you're on a breakaway. Like
Mhm.
all of the teammates you played with over the years, you're on a breakaway in that situation where if they just slide it to you, you know you're getting the goal. Who is the one guy you absolutely know is going to make the right play? And who is the one guy who you're like, I'm never even touching the ball. I shouldn't even be making this move.
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, from my time with the Revolution, Lee Win is shooting. He is shooting. And I'll
Well,
tell you,
you don't get to be MV Lee if you don't shoot.
exactly. And then he'll shoot low far post so
Mhm.
that if the keeper doesn't save it or does save it, the only way they can save it is by parrying it out for you to tap it in. And he'll say, see, there you go. Here's your assist. So it always worked out because he'd always shoot low. So I either got the rebound or he scored. And he was like, that's what it is, MV Lee. And then Teal Bunbury would be the player who is going to always slip me across. He's always going to give me the tap in. 100%.
There you go.
There you go.
Deal.
There you have it.
Needs to be more selfish.
And,
Look,
and-
we're
and
joking about this.
Landon
I was
was the
about
guy.
to say,
And on the
Landon's
national
done a
team,
little bit of both.
and on the national team, Landon would be the guy to slide. He'd slide me in.
Yeah.
No problem.
That's how you get
Josie,
60
but look,
assists.
Josie would slide me in. There wasn't really a player that you're like, they're gonna
Do it,
shoot
Charlie.
no matter what and not
Burn a
not-
bridge.
I
Come on,
know
Charlie.
we're already digressing here, but I got a question. Is that team culture? Is that like does that stem from just having the type of locker room where you all hold each other accountable and make the right play?
It's a little bit of both because in both scenarios, national
Mhm.
team, Revolution, my team in France, there was players that would, no matter what, they're going to shoot. They get the opportunity there. They're not going to slip you the ball. That's that. And you have the coach go on that player. You maybe have teammates go on that player that you need to make the right decision or choice, or otherwise you're not going to play on the field. Next time they get that opportunity, they're slipping you the ball. And then you talk about having everybody on the same page. I felt like every team I played on, there was character in the locker room. There was a good vibe, a good feeling, and you didn't have too many players make that wrong choice in that situation. There were times it's 0-0 or you're up 2 goals. Guys are going to take that shot because they're like, it's not a close game. It's not like we need it. So let me get on the score sheet.
Right. Yeah. We don't
get
need
a
it.
triple
I
double in the
need
fourth
it.
quarter. of a
Definitely
blowout.
situational.
Exactly.
It's definitely situational.
Exactly. Let this guy get the rebound. Why not? Look,
Ricky
we were
Davis
joking here.
getting his own rebound. That's the dream, man.
Like
That's
Chris
the
Pontius.
dream.
Chris Pontius,
throw it
another
off the rim.
player. Chris Pontius, another player. I was on 2 goals. We were beating Chivas USA 2-0, and we're just dominating.
Charlie
them.
doesn't remember the details though.
Yeah.
Hey, exactly. We're dominating them, and he gets a breakaway alone, and I'm in the middle. I'm like, is he gonna slip me across for a tap-in? Good. And he slips me across, and he didn't have to. He had a pretty good angle. Slips me across. I was like, respect, CP.
And
And
what,
then you guys
you
became
have the bar.
friends
You had the
for
bar
what-
tap on
for
that,
life
right?
at that
Yeah.
point, yeah.
Weeby, 1,000%.
Yeah, you're buying the drinks. That's the deal. I
Yeah.
slipped you across on the Hattie. We're up 2-0 against Chivas USA.
Yes.
You're buying the drinks tonight. We're joking a lot here, but seriously, NWSL back on Tuesday and Wednesday. 2 games both days. It's been awesome. I've got my Fubo TV going. I'm recording all the games, watching them late at night after everybody else goes to bed. And by the way, the call-up has Crystal Dunn on Tuesday's podcast. So if you want to listen to anybody right now, me personally in NWSL right now, I want to listen to what Crystal Dunn has to say, what she's feeling. Go check that out on Tuesday. All right,
She
let's
was
get
really
to it. We
good.
got Taylor
She was
TWELLMAN
really
coming
good
up.
on Sunday too. We got to point that out.
She just
Her
is
and
really
Davina
good.
in
Like,
midfield. That's awesome to watch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Davina almost
Yes.
had a bike kick goal, and it was like she was the only one playing for like 20 minutes, and it was like someone's getting a hat trick.
All right, let's get to Major League Soccer. It's the elephant in the room. We all know why we're at home, while you're at home, why you're wearing your mask at all times in public spaces. I repeat, why you are wearing your mask at all times in public spaces. There's been a massive spike in positive tests in Florida, COVID-19. It's not the only place in the U.S. that this is happening. There is some concern, and rightfully so, but on Sunday, MLS provided an update on the results of testing for players, coaches, club staff since the resumption of full team training. That was on June 4th, in case you need a date on that one, almost a month at this point. As of Sunday, 18 players, 6 club staff received positive tests prior to travel to Orlando to the bubble. A total of 668 players had been tested. I mean, many more total tests because they're testing them all the time as they come and go since early June. And then prior to traveling to Orlando, just so you know, everybody who goes, players, coaches, refs, club personnel, league staff, they have to have 2 tests 24 hours apart and within 3 days, 72 hours of their travel to Orlando. Upon arrival in Florida, everybody gets tested again. And if they are tested positive, they're going to be quarantined. And regardless, as they wait for those results, they are quarantined until they receive that negative test. To date, as of Sunday, today is Monday, 329 people were tested on site in Orlando. There were 2 positives, 2 players who had just arrived. They're now in isolation in a special part of the hotel. You heard all about that from Dr. Margo Patukian, who's the chief medical officer of Major League Soccer right here on this podcast. So 2 of 329. Not a scientist. I don't know. I'm following it the same way as everybody else is. That seems fairly encouraging, I would say, just because we knew there were going to be positives. That's what Patukian told us. She said it's not if, it's when. Well, this is the when, and this is why you designed protocol. So we'll see. Everybody will be tested, but as of now, 2 of 329 people who've arrived in Orlando have positive tests. It's a developing situation, as always. It will be for the entirety of the tournament. MLSsoccer.com, Extra Time, all the other sources that you follow for MLS. Stay tuned to those to get the facts as they come out. I will say that Chris Mueller had this to say. He's obviously in Orlando. He says he feels safer in the bubble than he does at home. So that's one man's opinion. That's all it means. We will continue to monitor the situation and let you know. But as of right now, as of until otherwise, I don't think there is an otherwise. July 8th, MLSisBack tournament will begin. Taylor Twellman of ESPN will be calling this bad boy. He is on the line now, and he's wearing a backwards hat. I like it, Taylor. What's up, man? Welcome to Extra Time. How you doing?
Yeah, I woke up on the other side of the bed today, boys. So this is what you got. This is the social quarantine, Twellman. You get. It is what it is.
Are you in the process of your individual training to get the voice back, to get the stamina back, so you can start calling games again?
It's a good question. You know, I don't really have a problem talking, David, as you well know. So my voice has been in good rhythm since the quarantine. I will say this: I called the 2 German Cup semifinals. And the one game we did with no audio that was played at a 4th division stadium, there was a bird next to camera 1. It was like watching the Masters, but you were calling golf. So that was interesting to say the least. But no, I'm ready to go. I don't know about you guys, but let's do it.
All right, July 8th, MLS is back. We know the dates. MLSsoccer.com is the place for all the coverage. And, of course, ESPN is going to be producing all these games. Before we get to the soccer, Taylor, let's just start with the broadcast side. Where are you going to be? Are you going to be in Orlando? Are you going to be in Bristol at the studios? Give us some of the nitty gritty as far as the logistics go here to making this thing happen and putting it on our TVs.
Well, as you guys can assume, it changed every 12 to 24 hours, right? So initially the understanding was John Champion, myself, and a sideline reporter, whoever that may be, we're going to be in Orlando. But then when ESPN and Disney assessed the bubble in the sense of what kind of access we were going to have, the fact that John and I couldn't be in the booth together because the booth wouldn't have been a booth. It would have been off of scaffolding because you guys know it's a Disney Wild World of Sports. So it would have been much more complicated to pull off that broadcast. So they decided to send us to Connecticut. And quite honestly, it's going to look bigger with us in Connecticut. It's going to look like we're doing the way we did the Euros or the way we did World Cup games or the way we do World Cup qualifiers. So we're going to have access for a majority of the entire tournament to our top studios, to our top resources as much as we can. And I think ESPN made the right decision. Now, listen, is there some aspect because it's a novelty where you want to see me on the sideline in shorts and a t-shirt? calling a game in 90-degree weather? Sure, absolutely. But you have to weigh what kind of access am I going to bring? And John Champion's on a scaffolding in the middle of the summer. If there's any kind of weather delay, you can't get him down in time. So that's the nitty gritty, but neither here nor there. The truth of it is we are treating it as a network as if this is MLS Cup games finals. The resources that my networks put in, us three have had this conversation numerous amount of times. You're going to be very pleased with the amount of resources that ESPN put into these broadcasts.
So one of the big conversations, Taylor, over the last month or two has just been with no fans in the leagues in Europe and South America where everything restarts. There's been different creative ways to try and change up the broadcast.
Yep.
Is there anything you guys have seen from that ESPN doesn't like, does like, is trying to do? Anything you're excited about?
Yeah, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised at how hard and long Major League Soccer and ESPN looked at what they wanted to do. You got to remember, this is at the Disney Wild World of Sports. So they are going to be very creative with how this is portrayed to the fans and to the viewer. And I think it's going to be an initial mixed bag reaction because people are going to go, wait a minute, what are we looking at? What are we watching? But I think when it's all said and done, people are going to say, wait a minute, this is pretty good. The amount of microphones that we're going to have on the field will blow anything we've ever done at this network away. So that access is going to be interesting. But the big talking point, Dave, to your point, I can't tell you because that is going to be up to Major League Soccer and ESPN to announce that. I don't want to do that. That's the first time in my career I've ever done this. I've actually just said, no, I'll let them announce it. But I think it's going to be interesting to the viewer. And I think it's going to take a little bit to understand what they're trying to do. But it's creative and it's progressive, and why not? Because this is a novelty, and you got to make the most of the situation. And I think Major League Soccer did a very good job of doing that.
You can plead the fifth here if you want. I'm just going to ask some follow-up questions. Do what you have to do here. Are we? I'm thinking like NBA angle, that like almost pick up, like 2K angle that followed around. Is there anything like that? Like you got, lines above the field? Are we talking about like players mic'd up live? What are we talking about with crowd noise? You guys start with the cameras.
Yeah. Great question, Weeby. You guys watched our MLS Cup last year in Seattle. I'm going to just say we've got about 25% more resources from that game. Now, you guys, for anyone at home, also remember some of the shots we had? Well, guess what? That's what resources we're going to have. Now, I'm just speaking from ESPN's perspective. You do know, and I don't think everyone fully understands, ESPN is in charge of the global feed. So Univision and Fox are going to take those feeds to, well, I don't know what those look like. I don't know that. So it's not pleading the fifth. I don't know that. But for ESPN's perspective, the amount of resources they put in, it's MLS Cup from 2019 with about 20% more resources. Now, the crowd noise is interesting because I think that will evolve, change throughout the tournament because you don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it sounds like. Quite honestly, I don't think anyone's lived up to what the Bundesliga has done. So he or she, whoever that sound engineers have been, they've been spectacular with the global feed. I don't think the English Premier League has lived up to it. La Liga definitely hasn't. The audio is one that I think will change and evolve, if that answers your question, Andrew. I think whatever we start with in the first couple of games, I think that may change or it may not. It depends on what kind of access you have. But the amount of microphones that we're putting into these broadcasts, I think fans are going to be quite pleased that they're going to get access to stuff that they would have never gotten access to in any other situation.
Weeby, I respect your professionalism because when Taylor said that, my first thought was like goofy costumes and Mickey Mouses just sitting on the side where you're like, people are going to be weird, but it's Disney. So I respect that you thought of cameras and audio first, because I did not go there.
Well, probably should have gone.
We've asked Goofy, Mickey, Donald, and the whole DuckTales clan. We've asked them to come, but they're kind of busy right now.
It's like, hey, is it going to be LeBron? Like, don't worry about LeBron. We've got bigger names in here. We've got global, like, multi-decade superstars. You mentioned the Bundesliga side. Before we move on to the soccer, and that is the part we're looking forward to most. What'd you learn from those Bundesliga matches? Those German Cup matches you called. Have you talked to other, color guys, people doing this in booths? You've done it in there before. Like, how do you bring the life that you want to bring to it in this very weird situation?
It's odd. I mean, you guys know me. I don't need any more energy in the sense of any situation. Quite honestly, it's more difficult to tone it down. but I've done over 200 games inside a booth from Bristol, Connecticut, where you're not in the stadium. So that experience is going to help here. Now, the difference is you have natural sound from those stadiums that come through. So what people don't understand is those Bundesliga games have helped the announcers because that's what the viewer's hearing. And so those global feeds for the Bundesliga from Sky Sports over there, what they've done, Andrew and David, is that that's natural sound in the announcers' ears, so they don't know the difference. They're not in the stadium, so it's helped them with the inflection of their voices. The 2 German Cup games we did not have fake audio. It was just whatever the stadium brought. So literally the game we did in a 4th division stadium, it was a bird next to camera 1. In the entire game, you heard a bird chirping, and I had to bring it up 20 minutes in because I don't know about you guys. I've never called a soccer game with a bird chirping in my ear. I've called golf.
Address the bird in the room, man.
Exactly. So either that was different. I don't think it's going to be that hard. The games mean something. I have to respect the game and respect the players and the coaches and the front offices and the staff. So my energy is going to be the same. I just need to make sure, when the audio matches it, I'm not coming through the roof, because when there's 60,000 in Atlanta, 40,000 in Seattle, you're in Portland, you're following that energy, where this is going to be a little different. But I look forward to it because I think we're all going to remember 2020 for both positive and negative reasons. And this is one of the positives, in my opinion.
Can I do one real quick? Are you kidding me?
That's going to be a hard one.
That was the best I could come up with. You're a pro, obviously. You've done this forever. You mentioned you've done remote games. But the world is different, right? And this tournament is different. The way the games line up, the things that the teams have to accomplish, the group stage games counting different, but then wanting to win it. Have you thought about how it affects the way you're going to call these games, the way you want to perceive what the teams are doing, the decisions the coaches are making?
No, I'm interested, David. There's no textbook to any of this, which is why I find it intriguing. It's new territory for all of us. Look at John Champion. Look at what he's done his entire career. This is brand new for him. Now, it's still a tournament, and he's done 20 some odd tournaments in his life. I've done about 4 or 5. So I understand the tournament aspect, and I think it's unique for Major League Soccer because you're going to get a ton of eyeballs that you would never have gotten because of that. And quite honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if this tournament format is adopted by the U.S. Open Cup in the future, because it's going to bring an interest that very few people outside of our niche are interested. Now they're like, oh, it's a tournament. Yeah, absolutely. What does it look like? I want to see it. Yeah, it's being played in Orlando. So for me, calling it, it's still a tournament. It's no different than the Euros. It's no different than the World Cup. It's no different than MLS Cup playoffs for me, David. So that doesn't bother me on that aspect. I actually look forward to it, but I'm more intrigued what the games look like. The players have been off for 6 of the last 8 months in this league. And so the substitution patterns, how do coaches react? How does it change the game in Orlando weather? All of that's going to be a huge factor in this. I don't know what it's going to look like from a soccer standpoint, from that aspect, but I am looking teams have to go for wins. This is a tournament which I enjoy. Some of these regular season games, and you two have been part of this league for a long time. We always called it the dog days of summer. Well, now that there's more teams in the league, that time's being pushed earlier where teams have to kick up. Now, this is a global pandemic. You're missing what I'm saying, but we've done games in May and June where you're like, whoa, that was an absolute bore. This is going to be different because teams are going to want to win it. And if you win it, you've got a real opportunity of making some cash for your franchise because you go to CONCACAF Champions League. I just think there's going to be a real good energy to the tournament. I really do.
I got to ask you, and this is, we kind of joked about the bird in the room. This is the elephant in the room. This is the reason why we're doing it, the pandemic, COVID-19. You're as connected as anybody in this league. What have players, coaches, people on the inside told you about their concerns, about the way they're feeling, about the bubble itself? What's your sort of instinct or information or opinion, maybe even, of what's going on with this pandemic and holding the tournament in Florida, because we know what the numbers there are like?
Yeah, it's the same thing I'm hearing from NBA agents, NBA front office people, because I've spoken with them as well. It's about the Disney employees. They are the only people that can, quote unquote, leave the bubble. And yet Disney's done a very, very good job within their capabilities, I should say, to help these employees maximize their opportunity with their job, but also not put any of the players in jeopardy. That's the number one concern, bar none. Whether you talk to coaches, front office people, or players, is the Disney employees are not in the same bubble that the players are regarding they can go home, they can leave the bubble, they can go out in Orlando, but Disney's doing the best that they can. There's certain rules and regulations of why they can't be in that bubble for the entire amount of time. But the fact that, you're asking me, Weeby, about 12 hours after the press release from Major League Soccer and the NBA, but especially when you look at MLS, June 18th, 300 some odd MLS delegate, only 2 people positive, and both of those players were positive when they showed up to Orlando. That's a positive sign. When you talk to some scientists, and I'm not getting into the politics of the situation, but some scientists would argue, well, a stringent bubble in a heavy populated area like Orlando that's positive, it may be better for you than actually going to, let's say we're in New York City right now and they said there was no rules and it was in phase 4 and players are going in and out. I'm not so sure that's better, guys. So I don't know that answer. I'm not a scientist, but all I hear from everybody is that why are the Disney employees not in quarantine, and how is Disney going to combat that? That's all I hear from the NBA and MLS. And quite honestly, I think Disney's going to do the best of their capability within the rules, laws that they can to try to make that better. All it takes, though, is one. And Weeby, to your point, I want to make this abundantly clear. Orlando Pride's players, that story, that is a massive wake-up call that all I've heard over the last 48 hours from Major League Baseball, from the NBA, and by the way, the NFL players that are practicing Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, what the heck are you doing when your own NFL PA is telling you not to do this? And MLS, you've got to take accountability on what you can control. A lot of this we all deflect, right? We say, well, what's commissioner doing? What are the owners doing? What are the front office doing? What are you doing? And I think that Orlando Pride story in the NWSL, it was a huge wake-up call to all of the leagues and players. You still have to do your job in order to make this work.
We'll talk about Orlando and Miami because that kicks this thing off. It's the ideal game.
Yep.
I mean, the reason it was chosen is because it is the ideal game. When you look at Group A in this game, what do you see? Group A is insane. 6 teams. I'm glad they changed the rules. I think that was the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
But to have it start this way and then have it just be battle royale where you don't even get to control your own fate, what does your brain say about this?
Yeah, I love the way first off, bravo Major League Soccer for changing it, because we did it on banter. We did it. I heard you guys talk. You got to make it equal opportunity. It's a crapshoot. These players have been off 6 of the last 8 weeks. So for me to sit here and look in the camera and honestly tell you what's going to happen, guys, no one knows. And that's kind of the intrigue of this tournament. So can Orlando City all of a sudden put something together? Like, wouldn't it fit Orlando City's history? They can't get into the playoffs. A global pandemic comes, and then all of a sudden they run away with Group A and they make a run all the way to this tournament final. Like, that could happen. But I'm most intrigued about Inter Miami because what we saw in the first 2 games, they've now got some injured players back. On those chomp at the bit to prove that he's not our career. So I'm intrigued by Inter Miami and what they could turn up, and if they're going to live up to the billing of where all of us were talking about it before the global pandemic came.
I'm curious, are there any big signings you think that come into this tournament? Or is the rosters that we thought we saw and we think we know now what we're going to see through to the final?
It's a very good question, David. I haven't heard anything. It depends on how you define big signings, right? Like, I think the global pandemic throws this into an entire different situation because I'm not totally sure any player coming in is completely fit either. And if it's a quote unquote big signing by your standards, Gonzalez Perez, is that a big signing? I mean, that's a debatable one, right? Does he help Miami? Sure, absolutely. I'm curious. That's the one thing behind the scenes inside baseball, as we say. I want to see the rosters. I have no idea what kind of rosters we're going to see, what players we're going to see. Brett Shea was announced for Inter Miami. Just for everyone listening, he was going to be a USL player this year. That's what their plan was. But now the global pandemic comes. He's fit. And Paul McDonough says, you know what? No, I'm going to bring him in. He's now part of the roster. I don't know what the roster is going to look like, but I am intrigued by that because you got to have a little bit of a different way to look at it, because if anyone gets COVID-19, you've got to have enough experienced players to fill those gaps. And that's where this becomes very interesting.
Taylor, don't worry, though. You don't know the rosters, so we'll make sure that you put your name down with who wins, and we're going to hold you to that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
The expectations don't change here, okay? Yeah. Speaking of rosters, though, this has been the question, and I feel Carlos Vela, and maybe if he's thinking, I don't know if I can do this because I have a wife who's pregnant. Do you think we'll see Carlos Vela in this tournament?
I think right now, I think it's less than 50-50. Just because I think you've got to really understand's a wrong word. You've just got to be a little bit more empathetic with, see, for me, I'm playing. And by the way, even if my son or daughter was going to be born, but if my family came to me and my significant other came to me and her family came to me, then that changes, but from my point of view, I'm playing. This is my job. This is what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't think I'm not at 60-40 he plays. I think it's 40-60, 30-70. I really do. And I'm okay with it. I understand it. It's a completely different type of situation. There's a lot of factors that are not in Carlos's, control, but picture this. If you're a player playing in Canada and you've got a wife that's pregnant and going to have a baby, you coming here and then going back, that's 14 days quarantine, guys. Like Canada, you can't come to the United States and go back to Canada and not go into quarantine. So that's a difficult situation. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see some players miss this tournament because of that reason. And I think Carlos Vela is in that group.
I think everybody's got to do what's right for them personally, and they have to make those decisions. I will not be judging anybody at all. We will be judging you, however, on this final question. It's your pick. You got to make a pick. You got to get out there and you can change it. I'll give you that wiggle room because you'll have to go on ESPN probably and do this stuff too. Is there a team that you say, this is the team best equipped, this is the team that's going to do it, this is the team that I'm putting my mouth behind?
Oh, that's a really good one. I love Atlanta, even without Joseph Martinez in something like this. But I will say this, I'm going to make a bold prediction. The winner comes out of the group of death. Sporting Kansas City, Minnesota United, that group, and I'm terrible with letters, so I have no idea what their group, but what is it? Group C or Group D? What is it?
I think it's D. We're still figuring it out. Yeah, man. Group C. Group C.
Yeah, it was Group C. That was my first guess. Neither here nor there. I'm going to pick the winner out of that. I just they were good at the beginning of the year. Now there's no momentum whatsoever, and I just feel like, you know what? Peter Vermees kind of sets up his teams to win in these situations. I think Adrian Heath has a better team than a lot of people are talking about. I think the winner comes out of that. I don't think it's going to be what everyone thinks. I think this is going to be a novelty, and we're going to talk about it, where it's going to be someone wins where we're all like, wait, who won this? How'd they pull that off?
All right, a lot to chew on there as far as the broadcast, certainly. Is there anything you guys want to see in these broadcasts? Is there something like, Taylor mentioned 2019 MLS Cup, all the cameras, the additional mics, the access, maybe the crowd noise in some ways. We don't know. We pled the fifth on some of that, understandably so. They still have, 9 days to figure this out, which doesn't seem like that long, but when you're trying to pull this off from scratch, I guess it is. Doyle, what would you want to see as the soccer fan you are? Because I know that oftentimes you're the guy yelling, back to the main camera, back to the main camera. What do you want to see from this product?
I like what I saw from NWSL over the weekend, right? And I like what we've seen from most of the European leagues, and that the teams came out with energy. The teams came out with, it felt like a tournament. It is a tournament for the NWSL, but even like the Bundesliga, it felt like a tournament. And I want that urgency from the first kick of the first game. And hopefully that's what Miami and Orlando will give us. One of the things that we've seen, whether it's Spain or Germany or NWSL or England, is that the games are a little bit sloppier, probably 10 or 15% more turnovers in midfield, and like some, runs are a little bit more hesitant. And that is just to be expected, whether it's MLS or anywhere else. But that's okay. That's what always happens after a long layoff. And that can be softened is not the right word, but like sort of softened if the teams go out there and play with energy. Like they all have, like all 26 teams, like this is your chance. You could win a cup in 6 games. In 6 games. So go out there and freaking go for it. That's what I want to see from the product. But beyond anything else, it's on the players and the coaches to go out there and put on a show.
I would say from a broadcast point of view.
7 games.
Yeah, 7 games.
Yeah.
From a broadcast point of view, one of the things that I like doing the most is sometimes you get to be down like right next to the benches for games and to hear coaches talk, because unlike Charlie, I didn't have that experience of playing for high-level coaches and just hearing the things they stress. And we have some really good sideline reporters in MLS who bring that to you when they can, but to have an option of maybe doing like, you can get full coach volume all the time as a way to sort of supplement not having crowds would be awesome. Because I'd even say Red Bull Arena, cool as press box, and you're right behind the benches, but you walk down to the tunnel and all of a sudden you're hearing 80% more from the 2 coaches, and it's a whole new experience. And you understand on a different level what they're asking for, what the teams are acquired, what the players are hearing, how they're interacting. It's a whole new experience. So I would say if you can bring us into that a little bit in this broadcast, as Taylor said, because you have, some different conditions, that could be a really interesting way to experience this month.
I'm thinking of the moment that we saw with Christian Pulisic scoring the goal against Man City. And I don't know if you guys saw this like clip that came out afterwards, sort of like an all access sort of deal. And he comes into the corner and he slides and he gets up and he's getting congratulated by his teammates and they're getting hugs. And you hear it's as basic it is, like, let's bleeping go. And that little bit of emotion from him, like, that's what I want. I want to feel like in those big moments, those sort of payoff moments, or even maybe not, even just in a discussion on the field or in like a little, like, I'm thinking right now of like the Tyler Adams, Sasha Klesch, and Josie Altidore in the playoffs, brouhaha. Like, I don't want to just see that. I want to hear that. I want to feel like I'm right there. I want to feel like I like, the words that are coming out of that guy's mouth, the relationship the 2 have, the conversation that's happening, the confrontation, whatever it is, I think this is an opportunity to not just see the emotion, which we almost always get, but to hear it and feel like you're a part of it, even more so than ever. And if they have that many mics, I think they can pick it up. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little bit wary sometimes of the different camera angles, just because I'm maybe it's because Doyle's conditioned me at this point to
well,
yell
that's
for
why I was
one.
interested that Doyle said he was happy with what he saw this weekend, because on one of the goals they cut tight on the cross and then all of a sudden the ball was in the net. And one of the things Taylor mentioned is the broadcasters won't be on site. So if you have things like that, they're really not going to understand what's going on. By the way, I've done the stanchion crew whatever broadcast before. That is the worst thing in the world. So I'm glad John Champion's avoiding that. But that's going to make it really hard for a lot of these if that's what happens.
Charlie, you call games. I mean, this is what you do at this point with the Revs, ACC, everything else. So you're part of that production process. When you call it, it's much more than just sitting in a booth and speaking to what you see. There's an entire system going on behind you as well. Mm-hmm. If you were going to design this in a way that you think would be cool, what would you add? What do you think they might add that you're excited for?
Definitely the dialogue from the coaches to the players on the field, as well as the substitutes, because sometimes, the first half, during the first half, especially, the coach will look over to some of the substitutes, the ones that typically are going to go in the game, and they'll say, look, you need to do this, this, and this, or this player's not doing this and this, and that's why you're going to go in for this player. So make sure you're paying attention. Or the left side of the field is exposed. Look at their opposing left side of fullback keeps going up, and he leaves that space. He's not tracking back, or he's not seeing this run. This is where we can hurt them. I need you to go. So those interesting conversations are going to be great for, I think, the casual viewer to say, oh, look, I didn't see that, or this is how the coach thinks. Or if you're a substitute, just because you're not playing or starting doesn't mean you're not going to come in and have an impact. This is why the coach brings this guy in, or this is why the coach was thinking about this substitute. So I think that'll be interesting. And I've always enjoyed now coming to the stadium and feeling that vibe, that environment, the energy, the fans really added something to the game. Now without that, now I want to see which players try and bring that out of their teammates, who are those guys who are going to be like, all right, I'm going to take it upon myself to make sure they're giving it everything they got, that I'm going to bring the best out of them when they step on the field. That's what I'm interested in. And I think with this broadcast, ESPN's going to be able to experiment, because this is what it's about. Maybe this is going to what ESPN's thinking about in a year from now or 2 years from now. It's like, all right, let's try certain things. We can fail. We can fail on certain things, because this is the time to experiment if there's ever a time to experiment with live competition.
One of the things I'll say for fans out there who will say they don't like watching a game that a commentator calls from a studio because they're not there. One of the really hard parts about that is most of the time you don't control the broadcast. So when you call, and me and Charlie have been on calls, remote together, we're not producing on the ground. We're not talking to people there. And so there's a lot of disconnect. And that's when you see weird cuts. The producers aren't listening to those commentators because Taylor's calling a Euros game that someone who's never watched an ESPN broadcast is cutting over in France. That's not going to be the case here. So I actually think it's going to be a lot more seamless, because those producers are going to be listening to the broadcast. They're going to be keying in on the people they're talking about, the things they want to see. Replays will be known. We get replays out of nowhere sometimes when you call from a studio. So there's all these things that happen. I mean, I think I've been on games with Charlie where someone got pulled out of a starting lineup and we didn't know, and the game kicked off. Mm-hmm. You won't have those things here. So the fact that John and Taylor and whoever else is calling this for Fox and Univision, if they're there or not, it's going to be a lot different, because it's a whole controlled setting and it's cohesive from top to bottom.
Yeah. I mean, look, as Taylor said, things could change. Like, they have an opportunity to sort of play a little loose with some things, but right now trying to get the details down. We'll see what they have on July 8th, Orlando and Miami kicking this thing off. Let's talk about the soccer part of it. I was thinking, as I was reading and seeing some of the news come out this week, about the guys that I want to say take a big jump, let's say, or get a shot to take that jump. And the first one's obviously Breck Shea with Inter Miami. No, I'm just kidding. But congratulations, Breck, for getting that deal. Efra Alvarez. He is the one that got the big write-up in the LA Times this week. And apparently Efra has rededicated himself with the help from his father, who runs a soccer facility in LA, with help from his brother, Carlos, who you know from, speaking of another Chivas USA reference from back in the day, still doing his thing with the San Diego Loyal, helping him eat right, helping him hit the weight room a little bit, helping him be more professional. And this has been something that we've talked about and people have talked about with Efra for a long time. And Zlatan in particular seems to focus on him. So whether it's Efra or otherwise, and maybe Efra gets a chance here because Alexander Katai is no longer around, he's got an opportunity perhaps to push into the starting lineup. Doyle, who is the guy that you're watching in the MLSisBack tournament or hoping for, or looking at lineups when they come out and saying, be in that 11? And once you're in that 11, make an impact. Show us what you're about.
I mean, there's a lot, right? There's a lot of interesting things happening around the league, especially with regards to center forwards. I wrote a big column today about like where each team stands with their current center forward, and like guys like Lacadia, Chicharito, Pulido, Adam Buxup in New England, Robert Barrett, like these newcomers. These guys were brought in on big money. These guys were brought in and expected to produce goals. Like that's it. Like you're brought in to be a star. So there's a lot of that. But when it's all said and done, the place where MLS is now as a league is we want to be a selling league. Like the commissioner has said as much. We've seen what it's meant to have Miguel Almiron go and do what he's done, in Tyler Adams, and of course, Alphonso Davies. Having those guys out there and doing that has meant a lot to the league in the world's eyes. So, and I think in the, not just the world's eyes, but in the eyes of domestic fans in the U.S. and Canada. So that, I mean, that's huge to me. I've always looked at MLS, at least partially through those eyes. So with that said, it's the guys who we saw at the top of the 22 under 22 list last year. I want to see if Diego Rossi can be like an apex level star. I want to see if Ezequiel Barco, who was really good to start the year, can continue to be really good even without Joseph Martinez and can justify his price tag. I want to see if Paxton Palm, I know of several big clubs in Europe that have legitimate interest in Paxton Pomykal. But if Paxton Pomykal is as good as they think he is, as good as I think he is, and I think he's a Nico Lodeiro level player, potentially, then this is the time to start showing it. Reggie Cannon on that team as well. So like basically anybody under the age of 22, like you have no excuse to be anything less than 1,000% fit and ready to go this summer and to bury the guys who are consensus ahead of you in the league pecking order. And once that happens and we start getting more Tyler Adams, more Alphonso Davies, I think it changes where MLS is in the global scheme of things.
So maybe next time we don't ask Doyle first on a question like this, because he chose every player under 22 in the entire league, which makes it a little tough for the rest of us to find.
No, what I'm really looking forward to is Bradley Wright Phillips having a monster tournament and lifting a cup with LAFC, because I actually think that if he's healthy, Bradley Wright Phillips is perfect in that front line with Carlos Vela and Diego Rossi. So there you go, David. One guy.
Oh, yeah.
So after all that, it's BWP. That's who.
That's it.
After saying
BWP.
anyone under 22.
So after all the 22 youngers and selling on to Europe, or we're gonna go with BWP.
BWP.
Yeah. In conclusion, Jeff Lorenowitz. Who you guys got? Did he take yours, Dave? Charlie? You got somebody left over here for me?
All right, I'm gonna go with Dom Dwyer. He's gonna have a breakout.
Thank you. I like this.
Right now?
A breakout.
I like this. You're speaking to me.
This is why I'm gonna go with Dom Dwyer. He's gonna turn 30 at the end of July. He's had not the best of seasons since he's been in Orlando. He had a 13-goal season, which is good, but we're not talking DP level good. And he's been rumored to be on the trade block for a couple of seasons now. If there's ever a time for someone to produce, to get their value up and show that they're not done, it's this tournament. And he's playing at home in Orlando. He's used to the climate. He's been injured a bunch over the course of 2 or 3 years. Now is your time to hit the ground running. And when he's played for Orlando, he's had success. He's gotten his goals. He's created goals. If he can get going in this tournament and stay hot, he's gonna have a good tournament. And so Dom Dwyer is one player I think could take it to the next level in this tournament and use this as a platform to either get a new contract in Orlando or to find his permanent home to finish his MLS career.
Charlie has been listening to Extra Time because I went in on that guarantee on Dom Dwyer on Thursday and said that Dom's going to have a huge tournament and push Orlando on. I haven't been big, like the text line heard this. And then here's what they said. Me and now us, Charlie, because you're now a part of this Dom Dwyer bandwagon with me. I felt kind of bad because Weeby doesn't think Whitecaps will make it past the group stage. But then this says Dom Dwyer will leave Orlando to the knockout stages, and then it's literally ha 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 ha
for about 7 lines,
like
all caps.
Yes. But I'm with you, Charlie. This is Dom's tournament, man. He's had a lot heaped on him. Some of it that he's heaped on himself, by the way, in Orlando.
Yep.
Some of it that's been through injuries. This is such a good opportunity for him to sort of like wipe it all clear. The world has changed. He's still a great goal scorer in this league. You can't convince me otherwise. This is his opportunity. I think he's going to do it. I'm going to go Julian Carranza and hope that didn't take yours, Dave. Julian Carranza was hurt to start the year, and I know that, Doyle is on the super draft side when it comes to their front line, but I really think it's Julian Carranza that's going to take them far. Like, if they're going to make a run here, if they're going to get off to the right start in Miami, which they probably need to do as far as results go, I think he's going to be the key. Back from injury, fresh, motivated, from all intents and purposes, the type of player that they wanted in that position. I mean, there's a reason why they didn't go sign somebody else, at least not yet. There's a reason why Paul McDonough is saying that DP spot would go to more of a midfielder, chance creator 10. Julian Carranza not only has an opportunity, but a ton of pressure on him in this tournament, I think. And I hope that he will live up to it. We will see, but Orlando City's back line is always a good place to start. So, boom, on to you, Dave. Who you got?
So I'm really looking forward to, in Charlie's scenario, Dom Dwyer facing off against Victor Cabrera in the final of the MLSisBack tournament. Just strength for strength right down the middle there. That's a dream scenario. But I'm going to stick to my brand, although Doyle took every player under 22. I think an obvious one's Busio, and I think Peter Vermees mentioned him. with Gutierrez out.
What does Busio do? What does Busio do well?
I don't know. And I think we're going to learn, one, what his best position is, and two, what he looks like with an actual striker in front of him in Pulido. Is he a guy that can set up elite, or is he a guy who floats around and finishes as the second runner because now he's got a real striker making that first hard run on balls that Russell's pulling back and Zusi and whoever's on the left and all that stuff. I think we're going to learn that. But I think he's going to get the opportunity, which is exciting. I'm still not going to go away on the two young center mids in Toronto and Frazier and Okello. I just hope Michael Bradley doesn't play 688 minutes of this tournament and they get a little bit of a shot.
Good luck.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Speaking of strikers, where do you think Mason Toy?
That's who I thought you were going to say, Charlie.
I know you were, and it would have been predictable. Same with if I said Abobasi or Mason Toy. I thought Doyle would go to Abobasi, to be honest. But Mason Toy, what's going to happen with him? Is he going to be with Minnesota after this year? Do you think he has a strong tournament? Do you think he even gets an opportunity this tournament?
I don't think he's going to get an opportunity. I think that it's pretty clear that they brought in Luis Amarilla to be the starting number 9. And while I'm bummed about that because I think Mason Toy has a lot of potential and he showed huge improvement from year 1 to year 2. And the other thing is that we've had a bunch of Minnesota United players come through the studio and we've talked. When these guys come through, we talk to them and they give us some behind the scenes stuff. And they said Mason Toy's attitude is great. Mason Toy comes to work every single day and works on his game. And that impressed me. Like, he's a student of the game and he wants to. But when the team brings in a DP to start over you.
Yeah, I know how it goes.
And then brings in a veteran to close out games, which is what Aaron Schoenfeld did. And suddenly you're third on the depth chart. Like, it's the same for Abobasi and for Toy. Like, I think both of those guys, had they been in the right situation, would be starting forwards in MLS. But it's just not how it worked out for them. And the book's not shut. They're both 21, 22 years old. So they just have to go out and somehow win the job. But it's also clear that both teams have other, ideas about who's actually going to be playing that role this summer.
And I'll tell you one thing. If you put Mason Toy or Abobasi on LAFC and you have Carlos Vela and Brian Rodriguez flanking,
yeah,
we're talking game changers. We're talking, these are scorers who are getting goal scorers who are getting 15 goals a year because you're in the right situation with the right coach. So, I mean, you can say that with a ton of players across MLS. If they're in the right situation with the right team, they would flourish. The problem is those guys are just going to not get an opportunity and they're not set up to succeed.
Right.
Charlie, I fully agree with you. I heard everything you said and I agree.
I agree.
For sure.
The other side of the coin is that we've heard this for years, is that competition breeds better players. So maybe it doesn't happen for Abobasi or Toy on the timeline that we would like. But the theory is that by having to fight Nijgauda and Amarilla and Aaron Schoenfeld for playing time, these two guys are going to learn the professional day-to-day routines that get you out there and make you a difference maker.
Let's look at an example. Mason Toy didn't play his first year. They brought in Angelo Rodriguez, and he got playing time last year because he changed the way he practiced. As you said, he changed his habits. He watched video. He was at training. So he did that last year, and it sucks to see it happen to him again. But that doesn't mean he can't win that spot. That doesn't mean that he didn't get better. I mean, this is a guy who wasn't sure soccer was his sport not that long ago, right? He was still thinking about playing college basketball. So he has a ways to go, and I wouldn't put it past him, is all I'm saying, to think that he can win time on this team and still get in.
No, it's the mentality of just saying, I'm going to get up every day and work for it and fight. And after a year, you're like, I think I've done enough to prove myself as a striker in this league. I think I've shown my growth. I've shown my maturity. And that should warrant me being given the opportunity to lead the team and be the starting striker. But all of a sudden, they're like, no, we're going to bring in another DP that you have to fight over. And sometimes you'd say, man, that's tiring, right? Why do I have to do this all over again? But what I would tell Mason Toy and all the other strikers who aren't getting the credit that they feel they deserve or they feel that they earned, it's you got to do it every year. every single year, even when you're scoring 20 goals a year. You have to play like that and feel like that every year, that you have to prove yourself. And eventually, those starting strikers that they're bringing, or those DP strikers that they're bringing to play over you, they're not going to be coming anymore, because you've done it, and it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time to go out and invest in someone when everyone knows you're going to produce. So for Mason Toy, for Bobasi, keep going.
And for Mason Toy, you probably don't have to worry about any academy products pushing you out. Minnesota United news. Not great. Not great. Not honestly, Bobasi probably don't have to worry with the same thing either. Sorry about that. Said it. Frankie Amaya is the last one I'll throw in there, because they have a pretty packed midfield. I'd like to see him get some time, prove himself, and maybe push one of those older guys out if he can, because he has a ton of potential. Before we get to the mailbag, let's talk Americans in Europe and Canadians, because, Alphonso Davies, always there. And, of course, all the rumors around a certain other striker for the Canadian national team, young guy, playing in Belgium, might be playing in Germany very, very soon. Their talent is enviable, but they don't have Christian Pulisic. The Americans, we have him. Future looking real bright, huh?
Who's the best
Decent,
player?
Week for him.
Who's the best player in CONCACAF?
Field player or any player?
Field player.
Okay.
Go ahead, David. You go, actually.
I mean, who are the candidates? How about this? Who are the candidates? Carlos Vela, it's from me from Mexico.
There's only three candidates.
You have Alphonso Davies.
There's only three candidates.
And you have Christian Pulisic. I mean, those are the candidates, yeah?
Well, I mean, there's four, all right? So it's Vela, even though he seems to have retired from international play. Raul Jimenez, Christian Pulisic, and Alphonso Davies, right? It's those four guys. So go take a stand, Weeby.
Alphonso Davies.
Wow. You would take Alphonso Davies over Christian Pulisic.
I think Alphonso Davies over the next 5 years will get more consistent opportunities and therefore consistently change the game more at the highest possible level of the game professionally than the other guys.
We be writing a contract here? Like, what was the language of any of that?
What? I'm trying to justify my choice, because I know that people are going to come out the woodwork and yell at me, like Carlos Pablo on Twitter, who's saying, as a diehard LD fan, the greatest U.S. national team player ever. You like that? Switch it up. He said he'd build a statue, but Christian Pulisic is something else. I think in a few years I'll be eating my words. Look, this week from Christian Pulisic is amazing. And now it seems like Frank Lampard has finally sort of like, at least publicly, switched his rhetoric. Because for a while there, he seemed to be like publicly either not going to talk about him at all and not going to give him opportunities and going to play Mason Mount over him, or going to kind of pick holes in him every time he came in. And now he's saying things like, hey, this guy's top level talent. This guy changes the game when he comes in. This is what we expect from him all the time. And then saying things like, names like Sadio Mane and Mo Salah when he talks about Christian Pulisic. That feels like a change. I think Christian Pulisic can be at Alphonso Davies' level. I'm just not sure he will get the same opportunities at Chelsea that Alphonso Davies is going to get at Bayern, because Davies is going nowhere at Bayern. He is part of what they're building around for the next 10 years, probably.
He's going Real Madrid or Barcelona. That's the only place he could go. Alphonso Davies right now is looked at as like the left back for the future in the entire world, because of his pace, because of his recovery speed and his strength and his ability to come inside and take people on the dribble. And he can score goals as a left back and get up there and create. Alphonso Davies has it all. He has it all. Now, right now, Christian Pulisic, can he get there? Can he be the player that everyone's talking about in the Premier League every week, banging goals, creating goals, being one of the top players in the EPL? Yes. But right now, he is not on the level of Alphonso Davies. Alphonso Davies is the starting left back for Bayern Munich consistently, not even a question. Every week, you can almost pencil him in as the number 2 or 3 starter on Bayern Munich. He is going to be the left back. There's nobody to even give him competition. Christian Pulisic, not only does he have to deal with the current roster at Chelsea, but Frank Lampard's going to bring in his own players as well. He's going to continue to bring in players who are going to compete for Christian Pulisic every week. And so Christian is going to be forced to play at his highest level every single week, which is great, is what you want from your national team a star, right, is being pushed to be the best every single week. And that's what you get when you play in Europe. When you're playing at Chelsea, it's different from playing at LA Galaxy, if you get what I'm saying. You're going to be pushing every single week for the rest of your career. The only issue with Christian right now is just staying healthy. Can he stay healthy? That's
not the only issue.
From what I see right now, when he's playing at Chelsea, it's just health. When he's healthy, he is good. He's not worrying about is my calf going to hold up? Is my hamstring going to hold up?
But his game is not where it has to be in totality, right?
No,
he scored some great goals this week.
He's still a kid.
For sure. But to Doyle's point, Landon was a best 11 World Cup player at this point.
No, he wasn't
right?
best 11. He was
whatever
best young player at the World Cup. And I'm not saying I at no point in that thread did I say that Landon was a better player than Christian Pulisic.
For sure. But I would say Landon had to do things with the national team as a central creative force and finishing at times that Christian's going to have to do at some point.
You cannot compare the times. Look at the national team then versus now.
I think that's the wrong.
When Landon was coming into the national team, there was a team.
No, 100%. But Landon, over the course of his career, became the guy. And there was a ton of games where Clint didn't come, and before you were around and Josie was around, where Landon was the guy, and Claudio was hurt, and he did that. I'm not saying Pulisic cannot. I'm just saying that wasn't what's happened over the last. What?
Is he not the guy now?
Who? Pulisic?
Well, he is the guy now, and that's why whatever happens with qualifying is going to be. It's going to be fascinating to see if he's able to step up and be just the dominant force in CONCACAF that Landon was. Look, I think Christian Pulisic is playing at a higher level from what we've seen over the last month. He's doing stuff no other American attacker's ever done. He looks spectacular. He doesn't look like a $75 million winger. He looks like a $110 million winger. He's just absolutely dominant. Why American soccer fans love Landon Donovan? He's tied for all-time leading scorer for the national team, all-time leading assists maker, more than second and third place combined. All-time leading goals plus assists in World Cup qualifying, 5 goals in 12 World Cup games, dominated the hexagonal 3 straight times. Like what he did in red, white, and blue is unmatched. And on top of all that, he killed Mexico. He killed Mexico at a time where the next bar for U.S. soccer was to climb above Mexico or to get even with Mexico. And for a dozen years, Mexican fans, they weren't afraid of Brian McBride or Josie or Charlie, no offense, or Clint, who Clint never did.
After the Spanky
League. I definitely raised a few eyebrows that up the corner. They're lucky they only had to face me once. That's it.
They were afraid. They were afraid of Landon, and like that. And that is the hat that Christian Pulisic has to wear. That said, we have digressed mightily from what the conversation actually was.
Yeah, you tried to pull the gotcha off the jump on me when it was supposed to be the Christian Pulisic celebration hour. I mean, it's like the best week of his professional career at Chelsea by far.
Yeah, and he doing it against a team like Man City, putting on that performance, which was the only way Chelsea were going to be in that game against that Man City team, was spectacular. It was absolutely spectacular.
Great week for him. Great week for Jesse Marsch, too. Congratulations to him. Austrian double. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they sealed it, man. A groundbreaking season. Brian Sciaretta had all the details. And if you don't follow Brian on Twitter or at American Soccer Now, his work is basically where you need to go for anything Americans abroad. So it's the first American born and raised, that's an important point, to win a Euro League title, a domestic cup in Europe, to manage in the Champions League group stages, as well as the Europa League knockouts. So congratulations to Jesse Marsch and everything he's accomplished. I am sure that it is just the start for him in Europe. Also, congratulations to Pellegrino Matarazzo, who, if you did not read Sciaretta's piece, you should go do that. He was born in New Jersey. He is now a manager in the top flight in the Bundesliga because Stuttgart got promoted. So congratulations to him as well. And guess what? Josh Sargent might stay in the Bundesliga. Is that a good thing for Josh Sargent? What do you think? They got a playoff here. If they win their pro relegation playoff, he's still in the Bundesliga.
Plays every week.
Yeah.
He does play every week. He just needs to start scoring more often.
Well, I mean, so context, right? He's played 28 games in the Bundesliga. Overall, for this year for Werder Bremen across all competitions, he's played about 1,600 or 1,700 minutes, 4 goals and 5 assists. He hasn't been the goal scorer that we have all hoped he would be by this point, but he had 4 goals and 5 assists for a Bundesliga team at age 20. As his fitness gets better and as his runs get sharper, because his runs drive me nuts because he's always almost always 2 yards off the pace, just doesn't see the game quick enough. As that happens, he has a chance to become a very, very, very good striker. I think the argument for next year is, would you rather see him playing in 2 Bundesliga where he would definitely be a starter, where he's going to grind out 3,000 minutes, where he's going to just take it kicking, but he's going to have to be the man? Or would you rather see him with another, battling relegation, spot starting, maybe 1,500 minutes in the full Bundesliga? There's a part of me that wants to see him in the 2 Bundesliga. I want to see him score 20 goals, get that confidence up, and do the stuff that a starting striker has to do every single game out.
I'd rather him, if he had to leave, I'd rather him go to a top club in a smaller league.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about going to a Copenhagen, playing in Europe, but also playing, in the top division, going to, Austria, playing at Salzburg with Jesse, going to Belgium, playing at the top club in Belgium. So if he had to leave Werder Bremen, I would rather see him at a top club in a smaller country where he's going to play every game and he's going to play European competition.
Where are you on Josh Sargent then? Because it doesn't seem like he's going to move. He's going to leave Werder Bremen. Like, they seem pretty happy with him as a 20-year-old option. But do you see the development that you've wanted out of him?
I haven't seen the development that I was expecting to see out of him from when I saw him when he was 17.
Yeah,
and he was an imposing 17-year-old playing against men, scoring goals against MLS teams. I thought he would have taken a bigger jump than he has. But everyone's on a different path. Everyone takes a certain amount of time to get to where they eventually will be. And I think for him, it was about maturity, learning, that not everything is going to be given to you, because it had been up until, he got to Germany and had to fight for minutes and fight for in the reserves, prove himself there. And then once you take that step, it's proving yourself again and doing it again and again and again. I think as young Americans, sometimes we feel like once we've proven ourselves to a certain extent, you feel like, I don't have to do it anymore. I've done enough. I've showed you what I can do. Now I don't have to do it every single day. In Germany, in Europe, and the rest of the world, you have to do it every single day. It's not every match. It's not every training, someone's coming to take your position. And sometimes we take it for granted. And so these younger years, take us a little bit longer to get to understand the fact that you have to do it every single day and prove it. You have to be better, so much better than the next German young player to keep your shot, to warrant your spot, because they're going to look at things differently, where, if they can play a homegrown, someone they've developed who's not that far off of you and your talent level, they're going to play him. So in order to stay on the field, you have to do so much more in training and in matches, improve yourself so that you keep that spot, and it's you that are going to get the opportunity to score goals every week. So I think Josh Sargent, hopefully after this year, which I think was pivotal for him because he got, like you said, over 1,500 minutes in the Bundesliga, next year use that as your foundation to only build up from. And so we're, instead of 4 or 5 goals, we're talking 10, 12, 13 goals next year with, 5, 6 assists. Then we're making the right steps for Josh Sargent to fulfill his potential.
It's a weird world developing in too. Gotta put that out there. It's not normal.
Well,
it's not like
also,
like it has
this
been.
team's about to get relegated for a reason. This team sucks. He's the center forward for a team that isn't very good, doesn't have support. They don't really control possession. It's like him and then Klaassen running around every once in a while. So I think part of that has to be mentioned, like, yeah, Erling Haaland, it's amazing, but Red Bull Salzburg dominate games, and Dortmund are the second best team in the league. That's helpful if you're a guy who's going to finish off the opportunities that are created. Bremen doesn't create opportunities like that. So I just think in terms of credit to Sargent a little bit, it hasn't been an easy role for him to step into.
And that's why
I think that's fair.
why I kind of hope that they go down.
Right. So he can they play normal soccer, they control games. Yeah.
Right. He would do the normal functional stuff, and then when they go back up, or when he goes back up, gets to a Bundesliga team again, it won't be this weird, like, he wasn't really a center forward for a good chunk of this year. Kofeld has this very strange system, and like maybe part of the reason his runs are weird is because the system's really freaking weird. So there's a lot to go into what to expect out of Josh Sargent. The relegation playoff, I think, is this coming weekend, so keep an eye on that.
As Charlie always says, situation. Got to be in the right one with the right manager. We'll see if that's the case for Josh Sargent. 401-206-0MLS. That's a mailbag. Extra time at MLSsoccer.com. Real quick, Luke Hillis, I assume in Nashville. He says, if Nashville does obtain a good striker like the rumor mill is churning out right now, we have to be Group A favorite next to Philadelphia. We've got a better back line and holding mid than anybody else in the group beside Philly. And I'm going to direct you to NYCFC's depth chart, Luke, because they've got they're pretty stacked in all those positions, as well as center forward and along the flanks.
Maybe he forgot.
But
he forgot New York City was in that group.
I feel you though.
That's what happened.
I feel you though. Look, Nashville could use a striker. There's no doubt about that. We'll finish here with this one. Actually, we have two more. Kit Culture says, if we ever come to Sydney, Australia, he would be more than happy to have a beer and help you avoid the speed camera areas. So you need a little bit more knowledge as far as like the local speed traps go, Dave.
No, but it's not in the cities. In the cities, I'm safe. It's when I get out Great Ocean Road, sun's up, radio's blasting, maybe top down. I don't think we have a convertible, but you know how dad style the elbow starts to get out the window? Yes. That's when it's like, oh, what are kilometers? Can I go 110 or should I go 150?
Did you go get the hand out and get the little wave going for it? Yeah.
I got the ocean right to my left because I'm driving on the other side of the road. You do whatever you need to do. But
life is great. You'll notice he did not say he could get you out of that ticket. So you have to come
not
with
at all.
some Aussie dollars as well. And then Eric Erickson, the last one here, hoping for all the games to be on ESPN Plus. Looks like there will be not any of that. It's mostly on ESPN and ESPN2, just so you know. All the schedule at MLSsoccer.com. What's my best option in the U.S. to get a month or two bundled to enjoy the games? I know Dave and I do the Fubo TV thing. You can have 3 users. They're getting ESPN this summer, though we don't know the date on that. So maybe that's not your best bet. And I did some research, and I think probably YouTube TV, if you're not looking for conventional cable, is going to be your best bet for this one. Looks like Charlie's on that bandwagon.
I'm saying that's me. I'm YouTube TV all day.
I thought you were Matumboing that with the finger wag. I didn't know.
I was going like doing the Ronaldo. It was more like.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did that.
Can we get the haircut too?
Yeah, you got to get the haircut for next show.
It's coming.
All right, do the research, choose what's right for you, but get it done by July 8th. That's when MLSback is starting. We will be back on Thursday with some interviews from Orlando with players experiencing the bubble, getting ready for this tournament. So tune in then. In the meantime, enjoy your week, everybody. Be safe. Wear those masks.